Hello readers, I'm Amy. We've had a very great, relaxing day. I've got my Krispy Kreme donut and my Krispy Kreme coffee. We're set for a good day. Wonderful. So today we are here for a book review. I think a lot of my 12 days of Vlogmas videos are going to be book reviews at this point, but that's fine. I get a lot of interaction on that content, and I actually really love making my standalone book reviews. So today we are going to talk about The End of Men by Christina, I believe it's pronounced Sweeney-Baird. Probably totally butchered that because I'm not even going to attempt a Scottish accent. But Christina is, she goes between England and Scotland. I went ahead and marked this on my reading map up here as a Scottish book. But this is a book about the end of men, about a virus. I don't know exactly when this was being written. I don't totally understand the whole publishing process, so it is a new book, it was recently published, but I don't know if she was mostly writing during 2020 or if a lot of it was being written beforehand and she was going through the publishing process in 2020. I don't know, but it did feel very, very familiar to me in the way the virus goes through. You have this virus that starts in Scotland and someone notices it whenever she's treating people in the hospital, and it's just men who are catching it and dying. And she tries to warn the world and no one's listening to her until suddenly it's spreading throughout the world and men are dying everywhere. And for the most part, I think this book was phenomenal. It addressed so many different perspectives and kind of thoughts on the virus, and I would highly recommend reading it. I did have a couple of quips, but I guess I don't really know where to start with this review. Let's see, I listened to the audiobook, which normally this book has a lot of characters. Some of the chapters are from the perspectives of characters that we don't revisit, and some of them are ones that we revisit. But what really helped is that in the audiobook, each character had a different voice actor, not within the chapter. So if during chapter 1 you would interact with, say, 3 different characters and they would all be voiced by the same actor, but it went by chapter perspective. So chapter 1's perspective from our kind of main character was acted out by someone, was voiced by someone, and that person voiced all of the other chapters that were from that person's perspective, if that makes sense. So that really made the audiobook and the story in general easier to get through because I did have that vocal distinction between perspectives, which love that. Need to do more of that with multiple characters' perspectives audiobooks for writers like Stephen King who have a ton of characters. It would be awesome if we could get different voice actors for the different perspective chapters. Not reading the physical book, I can't confirm this, but I do believe that this was an epistolary book because some of these are journal entries, some of them are newspaper articles, and some of them are in perspective. So I would call this an epistolary novel since it's told through emails and journal entries and stuff like that. Love an epistolary telling of a story. I love having those different media perspectives and different media types to tell the story. So you have the newspaper voice, which is very professionally written and tries to state the facts while bringing in interesting information. You have the emails, which can be formal or informal. It's just a great way to tell the story. So you have this So you have this virus that starts in Scotland and starts taking down men, and you got a lot of perspectives on this. I think it was a great reflection of different areas of thought concerning stuff like not all men, or how feminists react towards men or be perceived to react towards men. So it's hey, why is this only dealing with men? There was one chapter in particular that really pissed me off, but I'm glad it was there because it was from the perspective of a men's rights activist, and it's everything he was saying made me angry, but I'm also really glad that perspective was included because he's oh, this is how women are going to take down men, is by creating this fake virus that's actually how they're going to take over the world. But it's talking a lot too about how women are traditionally held back in the workplace and how they're finally getting their chance to step up and take over. And there's also this time element where you have like one chapter that's before the virus, a couple chapters of when it's starting, and then you see it going through the world as time goes on. And then the end of the book is how things have changed since they've gotten control of the virus through vaccines. By the way, get vaccinated. Here's your reminder. Anyways, towards the end of the book, men are really talking about how, since there's so few of them, they walk into a restaurant just to enjoy a meal, and all of the women are coming up and asking them out and how annoying it is. And there are still lots of women around who are like, hey, I lived through that. I know exactly how you feel. That really sucks. But then you have all these other people who have somehow forgotten what that feels like and go up and ask all of these men out. There was a great look at like this person who came up with a dating service specifically for women, and how some women really blossomed with this. Some women were trying to take a chance on it, and there were others who were like, hey, I'm just straight, and that's the end of it. So I kind of liked how you looked at the dating service side of it. The thing that I would change, I don't know how this review is sounding because it's so all over the place. My brain is very unstructured today. But one of the things that I would have changed with this book was some of the perspectives. There were great perspectives, but there was also this one in particular that just felt really unnecessary. We're following like 3 different women who are each working to try and come up with a vaccine, and one of them, who isn't able to beat out the others, comes from southern US and goes to London to try and research the virus and make a vaccine. She ends up finding and falling in love with this guy that she knew back in college and gets to marry him. And that's something that's really rare at this point, being able to have this straight coupleship, having this man and this woman who are able to meet and get married. But it's like she didn't end up beating out others for the vaccine. She's a woman who gets to marry a man and have her happy ending when so many others don't. And it just didn't really feel like she contributed to the story at all. And what I would have liked to replace her with, what would have really made this book 5 stars. For one thing, we need trans perspectives in this book because that would have changed everything. I'm guessing if they had trans perspectives in this book, it probably would have been whatever sex you were born as would affect whether or not you got the virus. But I think it also would have been interesting to see if someone has been on estrogen for years to help take care of their trans body, would that have changed whether or not they got the virus? I think that would have made some fascinating chapters and insight. And something else I would have liked to see would be surrogates, because if you have someone who's paying like thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to get IVF, or to get IVF and go through a surrogate, like let's say you have this female-bodied person who starts growing a baby for this couple, and then one person in the couple dies from the virus, and let's say the other person decides to end their own lives because they lost the love of their life, or maybe they lost some other children that they had adopted or been able to have in some way. And then you have this surrogate who's going through the virus, who was making this baby for someone else, and say that family was broken. Or maybe even if they weren't broken, you're still a surrogate, and what if you end up having a boy who's gonna die? Again, that would have been a fascinating perspective to have that wasn't included in this book, and it really would have made it 5 stars. As it stands, I'm giving this book a very solid 4 or 4.5 stars. I think there needed to be some different perspectives added and some of them taken away, but the whole premise of the book was amazing. It was very well written. It was very well narrated with the audiobook. Would highly, highly recommend reading it. Hopefully when I edit this review isn't as all over the place, but regardless, I hope you check this out. I hope you enjoy it. It's a wonderful book. Do take care of yourself because it is very reminiscent of how 2020 went and how people end up trying to protect themselves or live out their lives based on whether they're male, whether they're female, what their location is. It just reminded me a lot of last year, but I'm at that point where I think I can read that kind of story and be okay. So yeah, that is gonna be it from me. Please get yourself vaccinated. Just do it. Unless you have a condition like a physical condition that means you can't, you should really get yourself vaccinated and take care of yourself and others by doing so, because we love science here. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will catch all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.